Dear tourists and friends, hello! Welcome to the renowned Palace Museum. I am your tour guide for this wonderful journey in the Forbidden City. I am filled with joy and honor to lead you to deeply explore the unique charm and profound cultural connotations of this magnificent palace complex. The Palace Museum, formerly known as the Forbidden City, stands proudly in the very center of the central axis of Beijing. Its construction project started in the 4th year of Yongle in the Ming Dynasty, that is, 1406, and it took a full 14 years until it was completed in 1420. It was once the exclusive imperial palace of the emperors of the Ming and Qing dynasties. The area of the Palace Museum is extremely vast, covering about 720,000 square meters, and the building area is nearly 150,000 square meters. The palaces are arranged in an orderly manner, with more than 70 in number, and the number of houses is in the thousands. To be precise, there are 8,707 rooms. It is undoubtedly one of the most magnificent and extremely well-preserved ancient wooden architectural complexes existing in the world. Looking at its architectural style, it can be described as magnificent and resplendent, showing extraordinary grandeur. The forms of the rooftops are diverse, and the decorative techniques are extremely exquisite, presenting the essence of ancient Chinese architecture to the fullest. In terms of layout planning, the Palace Museum takes the Hall of Supreme Harmony, the Hall of Central Harmony, and the Hall of Preserving Harmony as the core hubs. The outer court and the inner court are clearly demarcated. The outer court is the sacred place where the emperor handled state affairs, while the inner court is the private space where the emperor and his concubines lived, rested, and relaxed in daily life. The main buildings include the Hall of Supreme Harmony, the Hall of Central Harmony, the Hall of Preserving Harmony, the Palace of Heavenly Purity, the Hall of Union, the Palace of Earthly Tranquility, and so on. In addition, there are the East and West 6 palaces, and the Imperial Garden with a sense of poetry and beauty, and other ancillary buildings. Its construction process originated from Emperor Chengzu of the Ming Dynasty, who carefully constructed it based on the Nanjing Forbidden City in 1406 and was successfully completed in 1420, lasting a total of 14 years. The historical status of the Palace Museum is of great significance. A total of 24 emperors of the Ming and Qing dynasties lived and governed here. It is undoubtedly the ultimate symbol of authority and glory in feudal Chinese society. Since modern times, the Palace Museum has also undergone many changes. After the wave of the 1911 revolution, according to common sense, the palaces in the Forbidden City should have belonged to the state. However, due to the articles of favorable treatment of the Qing house, the abdicated Emperor Pui was still able to temporarily live in the palace. It was not until 1924 that Feng Yuxiang launched the Beijing coup, and Pui was expelled from the imperial palace. Subsequently, the Committee for the Disposal of the Qing House Affairs emerged and took over the Palace Museum. Finally, on October 10, 1925, the Palace Museum was officially established, opening a new era of being open to the general public and turning this former royal forbiddance area into a cultural treasure hall shared by all the people. Dear tourists and friends, at this moment, the place where we are is the Meridian Gate, which is a crucial main entrance of the Forbidden City in Beijing. It is precisely located on the central axis of the Forbidden City, proudly demonstrating its extraordinary status. When you look around, you can deeply feel that the Meridian Gate is constructed with magnificent momentum and extraordinary splendor, and its history is long and profound. It is a distinct symbol of the authority of ancient Chinese emperors. In terms of architectural style, the Meridian Gate follows the typical paradigm of ancient Chinese palace architecture. The overall color is mainly golden yellow, perfectly presenting the architectural styles and characteristics of the Ming and Qing dynasties. Its main structure consists of 5 major components: the Gate of Receiving Grace, the gate of ascending grace, the gate of revering the North Star, the gate of earthly tranquility, and the gate of heavenly succession. Each part is skillfully combined by an exquisite gate tower, a deep gate opening, and a central passageway. In terms of building materials, yellow glazed tiles, solid blue stones, and solemn red walls are the main elements. These materials not only possess excellent durability, but also endow the Meridian Gate of the Forbidden City with a unique charm and solemn temperament. Tracing back the history of the Meridian Gate, its construction began in the Yongle period of the Ming Dynasty. At that time, it was established as an important symbol to manifest the authority and dignity of the emperor, and was also the main entrance selected by the emperors of the Ming Dynasty after they took office. In the Ming Dynasty, the Meridian Gate was initially built with a wooden structure. However, during the reign of Emperor Chengzu of the Ming Dynasty, after several large-scale reconstruction and expansion projects, a stone structure was ingeniously incorporated, and the scale and momentum of the gate tower became more magnificent. At the same time, the Meridian Gate gradually became a key venue for holding various royal ceremonies and grand parades, carrying heavy royal etiquette and cultural connotations. During the Yongzheng period of the Qing Dynasty, the Meridian Gate underwent another significant modification and reconstruction project, which made its overall appearance even more majestic and magnificent. In the Qing Dynasty, the Meridian Gate played an extremely important role. Whether it was officials and clerks entering the city to participate in the imperial examinations, envoys of tributary states coming to the capital for an audience, or the royal family holding weddings, funerals, and other major ceremonies, they all had to pass through this important passageway. It witnessed countless important historical moments and grand scenes. Entering the early 20th century, with the fall of the Qing Dynasty, the original traditional functions of the Forbidden City gradually changed. However, until today, the Meridian Gate still, by virtue of its unique historical heritage and architectural charm, has become one of the core attractions that attract a large number of tourists to come and appreciate the long history and splendid culture of China. As a symbol of national power and dignity in the feudal period, it has witnessed the national development and changes in the long historical process of China, and has inestimable historical value and significance. At the same time, as an important part of the Forbidden City, a World Cultural Heritage Site, the Meridian Gate carries extremely rich and profound historical and cultural connotations, just like a bright window that comprehensively displays the essence of ancient Chinese culture to tourists from all over the world. It is precisely because of its magnificent architecture and profound historical background that the Meridian Gate deservedly becomes one of the most popular and attractive tourist attractions in Beijing. Every year, millions of tourists flock here from all directions just to personally experience the rich historical charm and profound cultural heritage contained here and trace back the past glory and honor in the long river of time. Dear tourists and friends, next we are going to visit the Hall of Martial Valor. The Hall of Martial Valor was first built in the early Ming Dynasty and is located in a prominent position west of the Gate of Harmonious Brilliance in the outer court. Please look, the main hall. The Hall of Martial Valor faces south. Its scale is quite considerable, with a width of 5 bays and a depth of 3 bays. The roof is in the style of a hip and gable roof with yellow glazed tiles, looking extremely solemn. The base is surrounded by beautiful white marble balustrades. There's a moon platform in front of the hall, and a paved path leads straight to the Gate of Martial Valor. The overall layout is regular and magnificent. The rear hall, the Hall of Reverend Thought, is somewhat similar in form to the Hall of Martial Valor, and the front and rear halls are ingeniously connected by a corridor. The side halls on the east and west are respectively the Hall of Condensing the Way and the Hall of Glorious Chapters, and there are a total of 63 corridors on both sides. To the northeast of the courtyard is the Chamber of Eternal Longevity, and to the northwest is the Bathing Virtue Hall. In the early Ming Dynasty, important activities such as the emperor's fasting and residence and the summoning of ministers were all held in the Hall of Martial Valor, and later they were moved to the Hall of Literary Glory. During the Chongzhen period, the ceremonies of the empress's birthday and the court ladies' congratulations were also held here. In the Ming Dynasty, imperial edict attendants were set up in the Hall of Martial Valor, and those who were good at painting were selected to live here. In the late Ming Dynasty, Li Zikang, the leader of the peasant uprising army, led his troops to capture Beijing in the spring of the 17th year of Chongzhen, 1644, and established the Dacian regime here. However, due to the gradually slackening of the army's morale and the inability to resist the Qing troops entering the pass, only a hasty enthronement ceremony was held in the Hall of Martial Valor on April 29th, and they evacuated Beijing the next day. At the beginning of the Qing troops' entry into the pass, Prince Regent Dorgan was the first to arrive in the capital and selected the Hall of Martial Valor as the place for handling affairs and office work. In the early Qing dynasty, the Hall of Martial Valor was used as the emperor's side hall, and some small-scale ceremonies such as court congratulations, rewards, and sacrifices were held here. For example, in the 8th year of Kangxi, 1669, due to the need for repairs in many buildings, such as the Hall of Supreme Harmony and the Palace of Heavenly Purity, Emperor Kangxi once moved to live in the Hall of Martial Valor. During the Kangxi period, the Hall of Martial Valor initiated a significant undertaking, that is, the first establishment of the Hall of Martial Valor publishing house. In the 19th year of Kangxi, 1680, the left and right corridors were set up as the book compilation office, specifically responsible for the affairs of printing and binding books. It was managed by princes and ministers in general. There were more than 30 people, including supervisors, directors, clerks, presidents, chief editors, editors, and assistant editors, all of whom were selected and appointed by the emperor and the Hanlin Academy. After the 40th year of Kangxi, 1701, the Hall of Martial Valor printed a large number of books. At that time, copperplate engraved movable type and specially made kaihua paper were used for printing. The printed books had beautiful and neat fonts and exquisite and perfect illustrations, and the quality of the books was extremely high. In the 38th year of Qianlong, 1773, an order was given to print 138 rare books selected from the Yongle Encyclopedia by typesetting, and it was bestowed the name, the Hall of Martial Valor's Assembled Treasures series, by the emperor, and was known as the imperial edition in the world. However, after the 20th year of Daoguang, 1840, very few books were printed in the Hall of Martial Valor, and only its name remained. The books stored but not distributed in the Hall of Martial Valor were always stored in the Hall of Reverent Thought. In the summer of the 19th year of Jiaqing, 1814, a check of the stored books was carried out. The intact books were moved and stored in the Hall of Martial Valor, and the damaged books were sold at a reduced price. Since then, the Hall of Reverent Thought has actually become a place for storing printing plates. Unfortunately, in the 8th year of Tongzi, 1869, the Hall of Martial Valor was hit by a fire. A total of 37 buildings, including the main hall, the rear hall, the hall gate, the east side hall, and the bathing virtue hall, were burned down, and a large number of book printing plates were also burned to ashes. Fortunately, it was rebuilt in the same year, so that we can still see its appearance today. Dear tourists and friends, now we have arrived at the Hall of Literary Brilliance. The Hall of Literary Brilliance was first constructed in the early Ming Dynasty and is located east of the Gate of Harmonious Union in the outer court, exactly opposite to the Hall of Martial Valor in the east-west direction. You know, because it is situated in the eastern part of the Forbidden City and was once used as the place where the Crown Prince handled affairs. According to the Five Phases theory, the east belongs to wood and the color is green, symbolizing growth. Therefore, the roof of the palace used by the Crown Prince was covered with green glazed tiles. However, the Hall of Literary Brilliance was initially a side hall that the emperor frequented. In the Tianxun and Chenghua reigns of the Ming Dynasty, before the Crown Prince officially ascended the throne, he would first handle affairs on behalf of the emperor in the Hall of Literary Brilliance. But later, Because most of the crown princes were too young to participate in political affairs, in the 15th year of the Jing reign, 1536, it was changed back to the emperor's side hall. After that, it also became the place for the Ming imperial lecture. Correspondingly, the roof of the building was changed to yellow glazed tiles. In the 17th year of the Jing reign, 1538, the Hall of Sage Nurturing was added behind the hall. Unfortunately, when Li Zikang invaded the Forbidden City at the end of the Ming Dynasty, most of the buildings of the Hall of Literary Brilliance were destroyed. It was not until the 22nd year of the Kingxi reign of the Qing Dynasty, 1683, that the reconstruction began. At that time, the Hall of Martial Valor still remained, so during the reconstruction, all the regulations were roughly carried out according to the Ming Dynasty system. In the Qianlong reign, the Pavilion of Literary Profundity was built on the site of the Hall of Sage Nurturing. Please look, the main hall of the Hall of Literary Brilliance has an eye-shaped plane. The front hall is the Hall of Literary Brilliance itself. It faces south with a width of 5 bays and a depth of 3 bays. The roof is a hip and gable roof with yellow glazed tiles. The central bay has 6 latticework doors with triple intersections and 6 petals of rhombic patterns. The secondary bays and end bays are all sill windows, each with 4 latticework windows with triple intersections and 6 petals of rhombic patterns. There's also a square window on each of the east and west gable walls. There is a moon platform in front of the hall, and a paved path leads directly to the Gate of Literary Brilliance. The rear hall is called the Hall of Reverent Diligence. Its regulations are somewhat similar to those of the Hall of Literary Brilliance, but the depth is a little shallower. The front and rear halls are connected by a corridor. The side halls on the east and west are respectively the Hall of Benevolence and the Hall of Righteousness Assembly. In the Ming and Qing dynasties, in the middle months of spring and autumn every year, the imperial lecture ceremony was held in the Hall of Literary Brilliance. In the Qing dynasty, grand secretaries, ministers, left censors-in-chief, vice ministers and other officials served as imperial lecture officials with 8 Manchu and 8 Han. Every year, 2 Manchu and 2 Han were arranged to respectively lecture on the classics and books. The emperor himself would also write imperial discourses to expound on his learning experiences of the 4 books and 5 classics. After the ceremony, tea and seats would be served. In addition, the examination paper marking of the final imperial examination in the Ming and Qing dynasties was also carried out in the Hall of Literary Brilliance. In the Ming dynasty, there was the position of Grand Secretary of the Hall of Literary Brilliance, whose main duty was to tutor the crown prince in reading. In the Qing dynasty, it gradually evolved into the cabinet system of 3 halls and 3 pavilions. At this time, the function of the Grand Secretary of the Hall of Literary Brilliance changed to assisting the emperor in managing government affairs and governing all officials. Its authority was greatly expanded compared with that in the Ming dynasty. Dear tourists and friends, now in front of us is the Gate of Supreme Harmony. The Gate of Supreme Harmony is the largest palace gate within the Forbidden City and also serves as the main entrance to the outer court palaces. It was first built in the 18th year of Yongle in the Ming Dynasty, 1420. At that time, it was called the Gate of Receiving Heavenly Mandate. In the 41st year of Jing, 1562, its name was changed to the Gate of Imperial Supremacy, and it was renamed to its current name in the 2nd year of Shangzi in the Qing Dynasty, 1645. It was renovated in the 3rd year of Shenzai, 1646, and the 7th year of Jiaqing, 1802. Unfortunately, it was burned down in the 14th year of Guangxu, 1888, but it was rebuilt the following year. The Gate of Supreme Harmony is magnificent, with a width of 9 bays and a depth of 4 bays, covering a building area of approximately 1,300 square meters. Its roof is in the style of a double-eaved hip and gable roof, and beneath it is an exquisite white marble base. The structural members such as beams and lintels are decorated with the Heishi color paintings, showing nobility and splendor. In front of the gate, there are a pair of bronze lions and 4 bronze tripods on display. These are all elaborate bronze furnishings cast in the Ming Dynasty, just like loyal guards. silently safeguarding the gate of supreme harmony through the vicissitudes of time. On the left and right sides of the gate of supreme harmony, there is a gate, respectively. To the east is the gate of manifesting virtue. In the Ming dynasty, it was called the gate of promoting governance. And to the west is the gate of uprightness. In the Ming dynasty, it was called the gate of declaring governance. It is worth mentioning that in the 14th year of Guangxu, a fire broke out in the gate of uprightness, and the fire spread, affecting the gate of supreme harmony and the gate of manifesting virtue. So in the following year, these three gates were rebuilt together. In front of the gate of supreme harmony is a square with an area of approximately 26,000 square meters. In the square, the inner Golden Water River winds like a jade belt from west to east. Spanning across the river are 5 stone bridges, which are commonly known as the inner Golden Water Bridges. On both sides of the square are orderly arranged corridors, which are commonly known as the East and West Audience Halls. And there are the Gate of Harmonious Union. In the Ming Dynasty, it was called the Gate of Meeting Imperial Mandate, and the Gate of Harmonious Brilliance. In the Ming Dynasty, it was called the Gate of Returning to Imperial Mandate, standing opposite each other on the east and west sides. The Eastern Corridor was used as the Record Office, the Imperial Genealogy Office, and the Court Diary Office in the Ming Dynasty, and was changed to the Office for Inspecting Affairs in accordance with Imperial Edicts, and the Inner Imperial Edict Office in the Qing Dynasty. The Western Corridor was the office for compiling the collected statutes of the Ming Dynasty in the Ming Dynasty, and was changed to the Translation Office and the Court Diary Office in the Qing Dynasty. In the Ming Dynasty, the Gate of Supreme Harmony was an important place for the holding court at the gate. At that time, the emperor received the worship and petitions of his ministers here, issued imperial edicts, and handled important state affairs. In the sequence of the 5 gates of the Son of Heaven, it corresponded to the Yin Gate. As the saying goes, the Yin Gate is where one stays to handle governance. Both the Ming and Qing dynasties had the system of holding court at the gate, which means that civil and military officials attended the morning court, and the emperor received their worship and handled government affairs here. The emperors before Emperor Kanshi of the Qing dynasty all held court here. The rituals for holding regular court at the gate were recorded in the collected statutes of the Ming dynasty, which was revised during the Wanli period of the Ming dynasty. This ritual system had been formulated when Zhu Yuanzhang established the Ming dynasty in Nanjing. Later, when the capital was moved to Beijing, the Gate of Receiving Heavenly Mandate, that is, the Gate of Imperial Supremacy, became the venue for holding court at the gate. According to the collected statutes of the Ming dynasty, usually after the morning court drum was beaten, civil and military officials would stand in order outside the left and right side gates. They would wait for the bell to ring and the gates to open, and then enter one by one. After crossing the Golden Water Bridge, they would stand facing each other on the east and west sides of the red steps in front of the Gate of Imperial Supremacy. When the emperor ascended the throne and the whip was cracked, the officials of the Honglu Temple would shout for everyone to enter the ranks. Then all the civil and military officials would enter the ranks together, perform a bowing and 3 kowtowing ceremony, and then stand on duty in separate ranks. The officials of the Honglu Temple would read out the lists of those who came to express gratitude or bid farewell. After announcing that the ceremony outside the Meridian Gate was completed, the officials of the Honglu Temple would shout, "Presenting affairs." The various government offices would then present their affairs in turn, and the censors would supervise the ceremony in order. The officials of the Honglu Temple would kneel and report that the affairs had been presented. After that, the whip would be cracked again, the emperor would leave the throne, and the officials would leave the court in turn. In the Ming Dynasty, the holding court at the gate was set to be held 3 times every 10 days, on the 3rd, 6th, and 9th days of each 10-day period. Dear tourists and friends, now we have come to the renowned Hall of Supreme Harmony, commonly known as the Golden Throne Hall. It stands prominently at a crucial position on the north-south main axis of the Forbidden City. The Hall of Supreme Harmony was first built in the 18th year of Yongle in the Ming Dynasty, 1420, and was named the Hall of Receiving Heavenly Mandate at that time. In the 41st year of Jiajing, 1562, its name was changed to the Hall of Imperial Supremacy. It was not until the second year of Shangzi in the Qing Dynasty, 1645, that it got its current name. However, it had a rather troubled fate. Since its completion, it was repeatedly burned down by fires and rebuilt many times. The form we see today is the one after it was rebuilt in the 34th year of Kangxi in the Qing Dynasty, 1695. The Hall of Supreme Harmony is of an extremely grand scale. It has a width of 11 bays and a depth of 5 bays, with a building area of approximately 2,377 square meters. It is 26.92 meters high, and with the platform included, it reaches a total height of 35.05 meters, making it the largest hall within the Forbidden City. Its roof is in the style of a double-eaved hip roof. At both ends of the roof ridge, there are large ornamental ridge-end ornaments that are 3.40 meters high and weigh about 4,300 kilograms, showing a magnificent momentum. There are 10 mythical beasts placed on the corners of the eaves. Such a quantity is extremely rare among the existing ancient buildings, which fully demonstrates its noble status. The decoration of the Hall of Supreme Harmony is extremely luxurious. Under the eaves are densely arranged brackets. Both the interior and exterior beams and lintels are decorated with Heishi color paintings, which are dazzlingly colorful. The upper parts of the doors and windows are inlaid with rhombic lattice patterns, while the lower parts are embossed with dragon and cloud patterns. At the joints, there are gilded copper leaves engraved with dragon patterns, showing meticulous craftsmanship. The floor inside the hall is paved with gold bricks. In the central bay, there is a throne. On both sides of the throne are neatly arranged 6 huge columns with patterns of dragons in gold powder and gilding, with a diameter of 1.00 meter. The gold foil used on the patterns has 2 colors, light and dark, which are skillfully combined to make the patterns more prominent and vivid, highlighting the majesty and luxury of the royal family. On both sides in front of the throne, there are 4 pairs of exquisite furnishings, namely treasure elephants, Lu Duan, a mythical auspicious animal, cranes, and incense pavilions. The treasure elephants symbolize the stability of the country and the consolidation of the regime. Lu Duan is a legendary auspicious animal. The cranes symbolize longevity. And the incense pavilions symbolize the stability of the country. In the middle of the ceiling above the throne, there is a caisson that looks like an umbrella cover and bulges upward. In the middle of the caisson, a coiled giant dragon is carved. The dragon's head stretches downward, holding a pearl in its mouth, with exquisite craftsmanship beyond compare. In front of the Hall of Supreme Harmony, there is a broad platform called the Danbi, commonly known as the Moon Platform. On the Moon Platform, there are 1 sundial and 1 standard measure on display, as well as a pair of bronze turtles and a pair of bronze cranes and 18 bronze tripods. Turtles and cranes have always been symbols of longevity. The sundial is an ancient timekeeping device, and the standard measure is an ancient standard measuring instrument. Both of them are important symbols of imperial power. Beneath the hall is a 3-story white marble stone carving base that is 8.13 meters high, surrounded by railings. Under the railings, there are stone-carved dragon heads used for drainage. Whenever the rainy season comes, rainwater pours out from the mouths of the dragon heads, presenting a magnificent spectacle of 1,000 dragons spitting water, which is truly breathtaking. All 24 emperors of the Ming and Qing dynasties held grand ceremonies in the Hall of Supreme Harmony. For important occasions such as the emperor's enthronement, the emperor's wedding, the establishment of the empress, and the dispatch of generals on military expeditions, all these ceremonies were held here. In addition, on the 3 major festivals every year, namely the emperor's birthday, New Year's Day, and the winter solstice, the emperor would receive the congratulations of civil and military officials here and hold banquets for princes and ministers. In the early Qing dynasty, the final imperial examination for new scholars was also held in the Hall of Supreme Harmony. Since the 54th year of Qianlong, 1789, it has been changed to be held in the Hall of Preserving Harmony. However, the important ceremony of announcing the results of the imperial examination is still held in the Hall of Supreme Harmony. The Hall of Supreme Harmony, as the largest and highest-ranked building within the Forbidden City, has such high architectural regulations and exquisite decorative techniques that it can be ranked at the top among ancient Chinese buildings. It is the pinnacle of ancient Chinese royal architectural art and a cultural treasure of history, carrying countless glories and legends, allowing every tourist who comes to visit it to deeply feel the majesty and glory of the ancient royal family. Dear tourists and friends, now we have arrived at the Hall of Central Harmony. The Hall of Central Harmony is one of the three main halls in the outer court of the Forbidden City and is located in a prominent position between the Hall of Supreme Harmony and the Hall of Preserving Harmony within the Forbidden City. It was first built in the 18th year of Yongle in the Ming Dynasty, 1420. In the early Ming Dynasty, it was called the Hall of Canopy. Unfortunately, it was damaged by a fire during the Jiajing period. After being rebuilt, its name was changed to the Hall of Central Supremacy. Up to now, the ink marks of Hall of Central Supremacy from the Ming Dynasty can still be seen on the components inside the ceiling, as if silently telling the vicissitudes of history in the past. In the first year of Shangzi in the Qing Dynasty, 1644, the Qing imperial family entered the Forbidden City. In the second year, the Hall of Central Supremacy was renamed the Hall of Central Harmony. The name of the hall is derived from the profound meaning in the doctrine of the mean in the Book of Rites. The mean is the foundation of the world. Harmony is the way of the world, demonstrating the respect and pursuit of the state of centrality and harmony in traditional Chinese culture. The Hall of Central Harmony has a square plan, with both the width and depth being 3 bays. There are corridors on all 4 sides, and the floor is paved with gold bricks. It covers a building area of about 580 square meters. Its roof is in the style of a single-eaved pyramidal roof with 4 corners, and the roof surface is covered with yellow glazed tiles. In the center of the roof, there is a gilded copper tire finial which shines brightly under the sunlight, showing nobility and splendor. The Hall of Central Harmony has doors on all 4 sides. There are 12 latticework doors with triple intersections and 6 petals of rhombic patterns on the front side, and 4 latticework doors on each of the east, north, and west sides. The stone steps in front of the doors have a unique layout. There is 1 on each of the east and west sides and 3 on each of the north and south sides. The imperial path in the middle is embossed with exquisite dragon and cloud patterns, and the steps and the vertical bands are shallowly engraved with scroll patterns. These exquisite carving techniques fully demonstrate the superb skills and ingenuity of the ancient craftsmen. On both sides of the doors are threshold walls made of black bricks with lattice windows installed on them, which not only ensure the lighting and ventilation inside the hall, but also add to the overall aesthetic feeling of the building. Both the interior and exterior eaves of the Hall of Central Harmony are decorated with He-Shi color paintings of golden dragons, and the ceiling is decorated with frontal dragons in gold powder and gilding, making the interior of the entire hall look magnificent and solemn. There is also a throne with a screen inside the hall, which was an important place for the emperor to rest before attending court. It is worth mentioning that the forms of the doors and windows of the Hall of Central Harmony are derived from the Bright Hall, described in the Record of Rites by Dai the Elder. Such an ingenious design effectively avoids the similarity in appearance among the 3 main halls, reflecting the pursuit of diversity and uniqueness in ancient architectural design. In the Ming and Qing dynasties, before various grand ceremonies were held in the Hall of Supreme Harmony, the emperor would first come to the Hall of Central Harmony to take a short rest, adjust his state, and at the same time receive the worship of the officials on duty here, so as to make full preparations for the upcoming grand ceremonies. Moreover, whenever the emperor personally offered sacrifices, for example, when sacrificing to the Temple of Heaven or the Temple of Earth, the emperor would come to the Hall of Central Harmony to review the sacrificial texts the day before, to ensure the solemnity and smooth progress of the sacrificial ceremonies. Before the imperial plowing ceremony was held at the altar of agriculture, the emperor also had to inspect the seeds and farm tools here, reflecting the emphasis on agricultural production and concern for the well-being of the people. When the Empress Dowager was given an honorary title, the emperor would also review the memorials here. Whenever the imperial genealogy was completed, it would be respectfully sent to the Hall of Central Harmony for the emperor's perusal, and a grand storage ceremony would also be held. All these fully demonstrate the important position of the Hall of Central Harmony in royal etiquette and government affairs activities. Inside the Hall of Central Harmony there is a plaque inscribed with "Uphold the Mean" hanging, which is the calligraphy of Emperor Qianlong. There are also couplets hanging on both sides of the plaque, adding a strong cultural flavor to the entire hall. There are ceiling components on the roof of the Hall of Central Harmony, and the ink marks of Hall of Central Supremacy left on them are like the marks of history, witnessing the vicissitudes of time. In addition, on the left and right sides in front of the throne in the Hall of Central Harmony, there are two golden mythical beasts with 4 legs and a single horn. According to legend, this kind of mythical beast can travel 18,000 miles a day, understand the languages of all directions, and know things in the distance. Placing them on both sides of the emperor's throne, on the one hand, symbolizes the emperor's wisdom and sagacity in being able to have an insight into all things in the world. On the other hand, they also have the function of burning sandalwood, making the hall filled with fragrance, creating a mysterious and solemn atmosphere. On both sides of the floor in the Hall of Central Harmony, there are also copper incense burners, which are utensils used to burn charcoal fire for heating in cold seasons, providing a comfortable environment for the emperor. Beside the throne, there are also 2 sedan chairs, which are commonly known as palanquins and were the means of transportation used by the Qing emperors for short trips within the palace. They also give us a glimpse of the unique style of the ancient royal travel. Dear tourists and friends, now we have come to the Hall of Preserving Harmony, which is one of the 3 main halls in the outer court of the Forbidden City and is located behind the Hall of Central Harmony. The Hall of Preserving Harmony was first built in the 18th year of Yongle in the Ming Dynasty, 1420. It was originally named the Hall of Prudent Conduct. However, it was damaged by a fire during the Jiajing period. After being rebuilt, its name was changed to the Hall of Establishing Supremacy. It was not until the 2nd year of Shangzi in the Qing dynasty that it got its current name. The Hall of Preserving Harmony is magnificent in scale. It has a width of 9 bays and a depth of 5 bays, covering a building area of 1,240 square meters and standing 29.50 meters high. Its roof is in the style of a double-eaved hip and gable roof, covered with yellow glazed tiles. There are 9 small mythical beasts placed on both the upper and lower eaves, which is quite a spectacular sight. The upper eaves adopt the bracket set with a single cantilever and double overhanging eaves with 7 steps, while the lower eaves use the bracket set with double overhanging eaves with 5 steps, demonstrating exquisite craftsmanship. Both the interior and exterior eaves are decorated with Heishi color paintings of golden dragons, and the ceiling is decorated with frontal dragons in gold powder and gilding, showing nobility. The floor inside the hall is paved with gold bricks. There is a carved and gilded throne facing south in the north of the hall, highlighting the imperial majesty. The 2 end bays on the east and west are warm chambers, each with 2 panel doors installed, and on top of them are wooden reliefs of Ruyi, a shaped ornamental object symbolizing good fortune, cloud and dragon patterns with a gilded furba hat, which are exquisitely beautiful. In terms of architectural structure, the method of reducing columns was adopted, with 6 front eaves columns in the hall removed, making the interior space particularly spacious and bright. The Hall of Preserving Harmony had different uses in the Ming and Qing dynasties. In the Ming dynasty, the emperor often changed clothes here before holding grand ceremonies. In the Qing dynasty, on the New Year's Eve and the 15th day of the first lunar month every year, the emperor would hold banquets here for vassal states, princes, and dukes, as well as first and second rank ministers. banquets for the fathers of imperial sons-in-law and the families of officials with official positions, as well as the final imperial examinations of each session, were also held in the Hall of Preserving Harmony. At the end of each year, the imperial clan court and the Ministry of Personnel would fill in the yellow registers of the imperial clan of the Manchu, Mongolian, and Han troops of the 8 banners, as well as the hereditary positions of Han officials in various provinces in the Hall of Preserving Harmony. From the 3rd to the 13th year of Shangzi in the Qing dynasty 1646-1656, Emperor Shangzi, named Fulin, once lived in the Hall of Preserving Harmony, which was then called the Palace of Nurturing and Cultivating. Even his wedding was held here. From the 1st year to the 8th year of Emperor Kangshi's reign, 1661-1669, Emperor Kangxi also lived here, and it was called the Palace of Tranquil Peace at that time. When these 2 emperors lived in the Hall of Preserving Harmony, they changed the name of the hall because it was only a temporary residence. Since the Qianlong period, the final imperial examinations in the Qing dynasty have been regularly held here. Speaking of the final imperial examination in the Qing dynasty, this system originated in the period of Empress Wu Zetian in the Tang dynasty, and the Qing dynasty followed the precedents of the previous dynasties. The examination time was set as April 21st every year starting from the 26th year of Qianlong in the Qing dynasty, 1761, and it became a fixed rule afterwards. The location of the final imperial examination was originally outside the Tiananmen Gate, and then it was moved to the Hall of Supreme Harmony. It was not until the 54th year of Qianlong, 1789, that it was finally determined to be held in the Hall of Preserving Harmony. Since the final imperial examination was presided over by the emperor in person, there were no examiners but only paper-reading officials. The emperor personally selected 2 grand secretaries and 6 ministers of various ministries and courts to serve as paper-reading officials. The final imperial examination only had 1 session of policy questions, and the papers had to be submitted on the same day. Most of the examination questions were secretly drafted by the paper-reading officials 1 day before the examination and awaited the emperor's approval. Sometimes the emperor himself would also draft the examination questions. During the examination, princes and ministers would be sent to supervise the examination, and another 4 censors would also participate in the supervision. The Minister of Rites served as the director, and more than 20 people were dispatched from the cabinet, the Hanlin Academy, the Directorate of Ceremonial, the Imperial Kitchen, the Honglu Temple, and other places to be responsible for carrying out specific affairs such as receiving examination papers, sealing the names of examinees, collecting and managing papers, printing papers, and filling in the list of successful candidates. The Hall of Preserving Harmony, as an important hall in the outer court of the Forbidden City, has witnessed numerous major historical events and royal ceremonies in the Ming and Qing dynasties. Its architectural art and historical and cultural connotations complement each other, making it a bright pearl in the Forbidden City worthy of our careful appreciation and admiration. Dear tourists and friends, now we have arrived at the Sinning Palace. The Sinning Palace is located inside the Forbidden City at No. 4, Jingshan Front Street, Dongcheng District, Beijing. It used to be the main palace where the Empress Dowagers lived during the Qing dynasty. It was first built in the 15th year of Jiajing in the Ming dynasty, 1536. In front of the Sinning Palace, there is a long and narrow square stretching from east to west. At the 2 ends of the square are the left Yongkang Gate and the right Yongkang Gate respectively, and on the south side is the Shenkang Gate. The Sinning Gate is located on the north side of the square. Inside the gate, there is an elevated corridor that connects with the main hall of the Sinning Palace. On the east and west sides of the courtyard are corridors. These corridors connect with the Sinning Gate when they turn southward and extend straight to the east and west wing rooms of the rear sleeping hall, that is, the Great Buddha Hall, when they go northward. In the middle of the east and west corridors in the front courtyard, there is a door, respectively. The one on the east is called the left Huiyan Gate. and the one on the west is called the引言Gate. The main hall of the Sinning Palace is located in the middle of the courtyard. It has corridors at both the front and the back. Its roof is in the style of a double-eaved hip and gable roof with yellow glazed tiles, looking solemn and majestic. It has a width of 7 bays. In the middle 5 bays, there are 4 latticework doors with double intersections and 4 petals of rhombic patterns in each bay. The 2 end bays are brick threshold walls, each with 4 latticework windows with double intersections and 4 petals of rhombic patterns. In front of the hall, there is a moon platform. There are 3 steps in the front and 1 step on each side. On the platform, there are 4 gilt bronze incense burners on display. On the east and west gable walls, there are partition walls, each with a hanging flower gate that can lead to the rear courtyard. During the Ming Dynasty, the Sinning Palace was the residence of former imperial concubines. During the Wanli period, Empress Dowager Shangli lived here. In the first year of Taikang, 1620, imperial concubine Zheng and concubine Zhao of Emperor Wanli also lived here. In the 7th year of Tianqi, 1627, after Emperor Tianqi died, his imperial concubines moved to live here. In the 10th year of Shunzi, in the Qing dynasty, 1653, Empress Dowager Xia Huangwen began to live in the Sinning Palace. Since then, it has become the residence of Empress Dowagers and Grand Empress Dowagers. Imperial concubines and imperial noble ladies also lived here along with them. The Sinning Palace was mainly a hall for holding grand ceremonies for Empress Dowagers. Whenever important occasions such as the Empress Dowager's birthday, the awarding of honorary titles, the presentation of imperial seals and treasures, and the marriage of princesses took place, celebration ceremonies would be held here. Especially on the Empress Dowager's birthday, the emperor would lead the people to perform the rituals in person and would also dance in colorful clothes together with the close relatives of the imperial family. The etiquette was extremely solemn. If an Empress Dowager passed away, her coffin would be placed in the Sinning Palace, and the emperor would come here to hold memorial ceremonies. The entire Sinning Palace is solemn and magnificent. In terms of architectural form, in the hierarchical system of palace architecture in the feudal era, the double-eaved hip and gable roof was second only to the double-eaved hip roof. In the Forbidden City, apart from the Hall of Supreme Harmony, where grand ceremonies were held in the outer court, which had a double-eaved hip roof, there were also the Palace of Heavenly Purity, the Palace of Earthly Tranquility in the inner court, the Hall of Ancestral Worship in the east of the inner court, and the Hall of Imperial Supremacy on the outer east road, which also had this kind of roof. This also reflects the importance of these buildings themselves. Among the buildings with double-eaved hip and gable roofs, besides the Hall of Preserving Harmony in the outer court, there was only the Sinning Palace on the west side of the inner court. From this, we can see that Emperor Qianlong wanted to express his filial piety and deep affection for his biological mother, Empress Dowager Xiao Shengshan, by raising the architectural grade. Both Emperor Jiajing in the Ming Dynasty and Emperor Qianlong in the Qing Dynasty used the architectural regulations of the Sinning Palace to convey their emotions and ideas. As the residence of Empress Dowagers in China's feudal dynasties, it has high research value for studying filial piety in the feudal era. Dear tourists and friends, now we have come to the Shaokang Palace. The Shaokang Palace is located on the west side of the Sinning Palace in the outer west road of the inner court. It was first built in the 13th year of Yongzheng in the Qing Dynasty, 1735, and completed in the first year of Qianlong, 1736. It was renovated in the 25th year of Jieqing, 1820, and the 16th year of Guangxu, 1890. The main palace area of the Shokan Palace is rectangular in shape, stretching from north to south, and consists of 3 courtyards. It is 148 meters long from north to south and 57 meters wide from east to west, surrounded by red walls and covering an area of approximately 8,436 square meters. There are alleys on the east, west, and north sides outside the courtyard walls, and there are several rooms outside the west alley. The Shokan Gate at the south end of the courtyard is a glazed gate. In front of the gate, there is a closed small square. On the east side of the square is the right Huiyan Gate, through which one can reach the Sinning Palace. Entering the Shokan Gate, the main hall that comes into view is the Shokan Palace itself. The hall faces south and has a width of 5 bays and a depth of 3 bays. Its roof is in the style of a hip and gable roof with yellow glazed tiles and has a front corridor. In the central bay and the secondary bays, there are 4 latticework doors with triple intersections and 6 petals of rhombic patterns in each bay. The end bays each have 4 latticework windows with triple intersections and 6 petals of rhombic patterns. The central bay on the rear eaves is the same as that on the front eaves, and the other rooms have windows. Inside the hall, there is a plaque inscribed with Sishu Ningxi, written by Emperor Qianlong himself. The 2 end bays on the east and west are converted into warm chambers. The east warm chamber is the Buddhist hall where the Empress Dowager used to worship Buddha on a daily basis. In front of the hall, there is a moon platform. There are 3 steps in front of the platform with an imperial path stone in the middle, and there is also 1 step on each side of the moon platform. The east and west side halls of the Shokan Palace each have a width of 3 bays. They are in the style of a flush gable roof with yellow glazed tiles and also have a front corridor. In the central bay of the east side hall, there is a latticework door installed. The latticework door and the wind door in the central bay of the west side hall were modified later. The secondary bays are all sill windows. Each bay is divided into 2 groups by intermediate columns, and the window lattice is of the 1 horizontal bar with 3 vertical bars style. There are ear rooms on the south side of the 2 side halls, and on the north side are continuous ridge veranda rooms that connect with the rear screen rooms. To the north of the Shokan Palace is the second courtyard. The rear hall is the sleeping hall of the Shokan Palace, with the inscription Chang La Fu Hua on the plaque. There is a corridor connecting it with the Shokan Palace. The hall has a width of 5 bays and a depth of 3 bays, and is also in the style of a hip and gable roof with yellow glazed tiles. The front eaves have a corridor. In the central bay, there are latticework doors with the bubujen pattern and glass wind doors installed. In the secondary bays and end bays, there are windows. The upper part of the windows has the bubujin lattice pattern, and the lower part is glass square windows. The interior is divided into 5 bays by latticework doors. In the central bay on the rear eaves, there is a latticework door that connects with a multi-level hall, which leads directly to the rear screen rooms. The Shokan Palace was the residence of Empress Dowagers and Grand Empress Dowagers in the Qing dynasty. Imperial concubines and imperial noble ladies also lived here with them. The emperor would come here to pay his respects every 2 or 3 days. Empress Dowager Xiao Shengshan in the Qianlong period, Imperial concubine Yingui in the Jiaqing period, and Empress Dowager Kangei in the Xianfeng period all spent their remaining years here in comfort. Especially after the death of Empress Dowager Shangshan, Emperor Qianlong would go to the Shokan Palace every year on Christmas and the day before the Lantern Festival to burn incense, worship, and look at the throne where she used to sit, expressing his grief and longing. The color paintings in the Shokan Palace are painted in the dragon and phoenix Heishi style according to the regulations. In the paintings, the dragon and phoenix patterns symbolizing imperial power dominate. The composition is rigorous, the patterns are complex, and the technique of applying gold powder on raised lines is widely used. This kind of Heishi color painting is only used on important buildings such as the main halls, and gates of imperial palaces and temples. It is the highest ranked form among color paintings. As one of the important residences in the imperial harem of the Qing dynasty, the Shoukang Palace not only reflects the royal family's respect for the elders and filial piety, but also demonstrates the majesty and luxury of the royal family through its architectural layout and decoration. It also carries rich historical and cultural connotations and is worthy of our careful appreciation and exploration.
往上翻的是吧？哎，那还算不错啊。但是这种老柜子也是一样的，就是放一些贵重物。但是好多人说是不是重复？不一定，因为最后一个主人是宗康，宗康这个人可能不认识珍妃的妹妹瑾妃，当年瑾妃就在这儿住啊，所以有可能是他的。那这个旁边咱也能看到。
Dear tourists and friends, now we are at the Palace of Heavenly Purity. It's one of the 3 rear palaces in the inner court, first built in 1420 of the Ming dynasty, and rebuilt several times. The current building dates back to 1798 in the Qing dynasty. The palace has a double-eaved hip roof with yellow glazed tiles on a white marble platform. It's 9 bays wide and 5 bays deep, with a 1,400 square meter area and a height over 20 meters from platform to ridge. There are 9 ridge beasts, specific bracket sets, color paintings, and latticework doors and windows. Inside, the central and secondary bays are connected with a reduced column design for a larger space. There's a screen and throne with the upright and pure in the great light plaque. The end bays are warm chambers, and there are celestial towers and connecting halls. The floor is paved with gold bricks. The moon platform has bronze turtles, cranes, sundials, standard measures, and incense burners, connected to the Gate of Heavenly Purity by an elevated corridor. It had the largest scale in the inner court. In the Ming dynasty, 14 emperors lived here. It was divided into rooms due to its size. However, events like the Rainian Palace incident in Jieging, the Red Pill incident, and Moving Palace incident in Wanli happened. It was also used for mourning. In the Qing dynasty, before Kangxi, it followed the Ming system. Since Yang Zheng moved to the Hall of Mental Cultivation, it became a key place for the emperor's various activities, and institutions like the upper study moved nearby. In 1723, the box for secret air establishment was placed behind the plaque. The 1,000 elderly banquet was held in Kangxi and Qianlong's reigns. Now it's arranged as it was in the past. The palace's layout represents the sun, moon, and stars, showing the emperor's divine right. There are bronze turtles, cranes, sundials, standard measures, and the Hall of State and Altar of Land on the terrace, demonstrating the emperor's supreme power. Inside, there are carved doors, color paintings, and a platform with a throne, screen, and various ornaments. There are also cabinets and precious items. The Red Pill incident and Moving Palace incident in the late Ming dynasty are well known. In 1644, Li Zikang's army destroyed the Revere Heaven and Follow the Ancestors plaque. The secret air establishment system by Yangzheng was to place the box behind the plaque. In the Qing dynasty, banquets and family feasts were held here, and it was also used to place the emperor's coffin.
On both sides, the east chamber, west chamber, different rooms, different light.
明代的不是，明代应该是第一张。
确实，而且你
哎，遇到
这个光，
没问题，这样
你这个光也是慢慢好像就往那边了，一会儿可能12点。
就是这太阳。
This phenomenon just right now.
第一次
这个砖，它这往这个前方，小朋友看能不能看到？现在有光线嘛，能够看到里边这个地面上的这个砖，它是黑色的，是很亮的，很亮。就是这一块地砖的话，就一整块正方形的，500多天。所以说当时工期呢，第一次是在这里。那具体的这个光线的话，我们在这个角度，现在的话你看到的是可能说是一束光线，哎，打在这两个字上，然后打在这个金龙上。像全部的房间会全部反光的一张的话，它会对于咱去年冬至的时候，今年冬至的话我没有提上来，我没有拍上，咱们看一下去年冬至的时候，这是这个房间全部打亮光线，对，整个房间会对着亮，是去年冬至，应该是。好，这是咱们说的里边的一个金砖，也是它最主要的一个地方。好，了解完这个之后呢，于是呀，这个有一个小女孩，她就看到认为皇帝是真的皇后带着人从这件事以后，皇帝再也不敢在英国再
Dear tourists and friends, now we have come to the Hall of Union and Peace. The Hall of Union and Peace is one of the 3 rear palaces in the inner court and is located between the Palace of Heavenly Purity and the Palace of Earthly Tranquility. It was probably built during the Jiajing period in the Ming Dynasty and was renovated in the 12th year of Shunzi, 1655, and the 8th year of Kangxi, 1669. In the 2nd year of Jiaqing, 1797, the Palace of Heavenly Purity caught fire and affected this hall, so it was rebuilt in the same year. The Hall of Union and Peace has a square plan, with both the depth and width being 3 bays. Its roof is in the style of a single-eaved pyramidal roof with 4 corners. There's a gilded copper finial on the top, and the roof is covered with yellow glazed tiles. It adopts the bracket set with double overhanging eaves with 5 steps, and the beams and lintels are decorated with Heishi color paintings of dragons and phoenixes, looking exquisite and magnificent. In the central bays on all 4 sides there are doors. The doors are latticework doors with triple intersections and 6 petals of rhombic patterns and dragon and phoenix skirtboards, with 4 doors on each side. The secondary bays on the south side are sill windows, while the secondary bays on the other 3 sides are walls. Looking up inside the hall, there is a caisson with a coiled dragon holding a pearl in its mouth on the ceiling, which is quite spectacular. The floor is paved with gold bricks, making people feel solid when walking on it. In the central bay, there is a throne. Above the throne hangs the plaque inscribed with "Inaction," written by Emperor Kangxi himself. Behind the throne, there is a panel screen with the inscription on the Hall of Union and Peace, composed by Emperor Qianlong, written on it. In the east secondary bay, there is a copper clepsydra, which was used for telling time in the past but was no longer used after the Qianlong period. In the west secondary bay, there is a large chiming clock, and the time in the imperial palace was arranged according to the time of this clock in the past. During the Qing dynasty, the Hall of Union and Peace was the place where the empress received congratulations on her birthday. Moreover, the 25 imperial seals of the Qing dynasty were stored here. Every year in the first month of the lunar calendar, the imperial observatory would select an auspicious day and an auspicious time, set up tables in the hall, take out the imperial seals and display them. Then the emperor would come here to burn incense and perform rituals. The iron plaque inscribed with "The Inner Palace is not allowed to interfere in political affairs," set up by Emperor Shizhu of the Qing dynasty, was also placed in this hall in the past. When the emperor got married, the empress's certificate of appointment and imperial seals would be placed on the tables on the left and right sides in the hall. Every year in spring, when sacrificing to the silkworm goddess, the empress would come here one day in advance to check the tools for mulberry picking. Let's take a look at the position of the Hall of Union and Peace. It corresponds to the Hall of Central Harmony in the front court from north to south. Their appearances and layouts are quite similar, which reflects the symmetrical beauty that ancient Chinese architecture pays special attention to. Just as Emperor Qianlong mentioned in the inscription on the Hall of Union and Peace, the name of the hall is Union and Peace, symbolizing the union of heaven and earth. The two words union and peace are derived from the Tai hexagram in the Book of Changes, meaning the intersection of Qian, heaven, and Kun, earth. The Hall of Union and Peace is exactly in the middle between the Palace of Heavenly Purity and the Palace of Earthly Tranquility. Qian represents heaven and Kun represents earth. When Qian and Kun intersect, yin and yang can be balanced. Therefore, the Tai hexagram expresses the most fundamental idea in the Book of Changes. When heaven and earth intersect, all things are born and transformed. When yin and yang intersect, everything goes smoothly. That is to say, only when heaven and earth interact and communicate with each other can all things in the world be auspicious and prosperous and finally reach a state of peace and harmony. In the Ming and Qing dynasties, the Hall of Union and Peace was always the place where the empress received court congratulations on important festivals. On three major festivals, namely New Year's Day, the winter solstice, and the empress's birthday, the empresses of the Ming and Qing dynasties would come to the Hall of Union and Peace to hold celebration ceremonies. Since the Qianlong period in the Qing dynasty, the Hall of Union and Peace has also been used to store imperial seals. These imperial seals are related to the imperial edicts and proclamations issued by the emperor. Therefore, studying the Hall of Union and Peace is very helpful for understanding how the Qing emperors managed the country. It is like a box full of historical stories, waiting for us to open it and discover the mysteries inside. Dear tourists and friends, now we have come to the Palace of Earthly Tranquility. The Palace of Earthly Tranquility is one of the three rear palaces in the inner court. It was first built in the 18th year of Yongle in the Ming Dynasty, 1420. However, it was destroyed by fire twice, in the 9th year of Zhengde, 1514, and the 24th year of Wanli, 1596. It was rebuilt in the 33rd year of Wanli, 1605. In the Qing dynasty, following the system of the Ming dynasty, it was renovated in the 2nd year of Shunzi, 1645, and renovated again in the 12th year of Shunzi, 1655, by imitating the palace of King Ming in Shenjing, Shenyang. In the 2nd year of Zheqing, 1797, when the Palace of Heavenly Purity caught fire, the front eaves of the Palace of Earthly Tranquility were also affected. It was renovated again in the third year of Jiaqing, 1798. The Palace of Earthly Tranquility faces south and has a width of 9 bays including the corridors and a depth of 3 bays. Its roof is in the style of a double-eaved hip roof with yellow glazed tiles, which is quite magnificent. In the Ming Dynasty, it was the sleeping palace of the empress. After being rebuilt in the 12th year of Shunzi in the Qing Dynasty, it became the main place for shamanism to offer sacrifices to gods. During the renovation, the original door in the central bay was changed to the one in the east secondary bay. The original latticework doors were replaced by double-panel doors, and the latticework windows in the other bays were changed into vertical lattice windows with hanging latches. The 2 rooms on the east side inside the hall were separated to form warm chambers, which were used as bedrooms. In the 4 rooms on the west side of the door, there were kung beds on the south, north, and west sides, which were used as places for offering sacrifices to gods. At the rear eaves opposite the door, there were cooking stoves, which were used for slaughtering animals and boiling meat. Because it was used by the imperial family, the kitchen was equipped with latticework doors and a gilded furba cover with extremely elaborate and gorgeous decorations. After the renovation, although the use of the Palace of Earthly Tranquility had changed, its status as the central palace remained unchanged. When Emperor Kangxi, named Xuanye, got married in the 4th year of his reign, 1665, the Empress Dowager designated that the wedding ceremony should be held in the Palace of Earthly Tranquility. Later, when Emperor Tongzi and Emperor Guangxu got married, and even when Pui got married, the wedding ceremonies were all held in the Palace of Earthly Tranquility. Since the reign of Emperor Yongzheng, the emperor moved to live in the Hall of Mental Cultivation, and the empress no longer lived in the Palace of Earthly Tranquility. In fact, the Palace of Earthly Tranquility had become a special place for shamanism to offer sacrifices to gods. The name of the Palace of Earthly Tranquility comes from Dao Te Ching. Those who obtained the one in ancient times, heaven obtained the one and became clear. Earth obtained the one and became tranquil. Spirits obtained the one and became efficacious. Valleys obtained the one and became full. All things obtained the one and came to life. Princes and kings obtained the one and became the correct models for the world. In the Ming Dynasty, people believed that the empress was opposite to the emperor. The emperor was regarded as heaven and the empress was regarded as earth. The emperor was Qiang and the empress was Kun. Just as the sentence in Dao Te Ching goes, Earth obtained the one and became tranquil, so it was named Palace of Earthly Tranquility. For the same reason, because of the sentence, Heaven obtained the one and became clear, the sleeping palace of the emperor was named Palace of Heavenly Purity, which corresponded to the Palace of Earthly Tranquility. Nowadays, the Palace of Earthly Tranquility is displayed as it was in the original court life. It has witnessed many historical changes and royal ceremonies in the Ming and Qing dynasties. Whether it was used as the sleeping palace of the empress, the place for shamanism to offer sacrifices to gods, or the place for the emperor's wedding ceremony, it carries rich historical and cultural connotations and is worthy of our careful appreciation and exploration. Now, we are looking at the Hall of Mental Cultivation. It's closed for renovation. This hall is not only a place for emperors to handle state affairs, but also a multifunctional complex for working, living, receiving guests, and feasting. It has an I-shaped structure. The front hall is 36 meters wide and 12 meters deep, with a hip and gable roof of yellow glazed tiles. The middle and west side rooms are connected to winding roofed porches. Extra square columns make it look like 9 rooms from outside. Inside, the emperor's throne sits in the middle of the central room, under the Zhongzheng Renhe plaque by Emperor Yongzheng. In the east warm chamber, the throne facing west was where Empress Dowagers Sisi and Cyan held court. The west warm chamber is divided. The Qingzheng Qingshan Hall was for the emperor to read memorials and meet ministers secretly. The famous Zhen Qi Tang was for Emperor Qianlong's study. There are also a small Buddhist hall and the plum blossom hut for the emperor to worship and relax. Dear tourists, now we are at the West Six Palaces. Located on the west side of the inner court of the Forbidden City, it is a magnificent and regularly laid out palace complex full of historical charm. These 6 palaces, namely Yangshu Palace, Yikun Palace, Chusu Palace, Xianfu Palace, Changchun Palace, and Qixiang Palace, Taiji Hall, were first built in the Yongle period of the Ming Dynasty and underwent numerous renovations and reconstructions in the Ming and Qing dynasties, carrying the court culture and historical memories of hundreds of years. The overall architectural style of the West Six Palaces is elegant and solemn, with red walls, yellow tiles, carved beams, and painted rafters, showing the royal grandeur. The palace layout is strictly symmetrical, with deep courtyards and winding paths, being relatively independent and yet connected to each other, forming a private and delicate court living space. During the Ming and Qing dynasties, it was mainly the residence of the imperial concubines. Each palace has been inhabited by several concubines with different identities and personalities, witnessing countless harem stories and details of court life, such as daily routines, paying respects, festival ceremonies, and harem intrigues, all of which took place here. It has become an important carrier of court history and culture, presenting a rich and real picture of ancient court life to later generations, possessing extremely high historical and cultural value. Dear friends, here's the front gate of Yangshu Palace. It's closed for renovation. Built in the Ming Dynasty, it was repaired many times in the Ming and Qing dynasties. The palace looks elegant. With a yellow glazed tile hip and gable roof, it's 5 bays wide and 3 bays deep. The front corridor has fine painted beams with vivid pictures of flowers, birds, and myths. It was the home of many imperial concubines. In the Qing dynasty, it was used for feasts. During festivals, the palace was bright and full of nobles and officials, witnessing the court's prosperity and adding historical charm. Dear friends, now we are at Yikun Palace, one of the 6 palaces in the west of the inner court and the residence of imperial concubines in the Ming and Qing dynasties. It was built in 1420, the 18th year of Yongle in the Ming dynasty, and was first called Wenan Palace. In 1535, the 14th year of Jia, it was renamed Yikun Palace. It was repaired many times in the Qing dynasty. Originally, it was a 2-courtyard house. In the late Qing dynasty, the rear hall of Yikun Palace was changed into a hall called Taihe Hall, and one room of the east and west ear rooms was changed into a passage connecting Yikun Palace and Kuxiu Palace to form a 4-courtyard pattern. The main hall has 5 bays with a yellow glazed tile, hip and gable roof, and corridors in the front and back. In front of the hall, there is a Guangming Shengchang screen door, and a pair of copper phoenixes, cranes, and furnaces are displayed under the platform foundation. When Pi was the abdicated emperor, a swing was installed under the front corridor of the main hall. Now, the swing has been removed, but the swing frame is still there. There are side halls on the east and west sides, namely Yanhong Hall and Yuan Hall, both of which are 3-bay buildings with yellow glazed tile hard hilltops. The rear hall, Taihe Hall, was changed into a hall through which people can pass when Kuxiu Palace and Yikun Palace were connected in the late Qing dynasty. It has 5 bays, opens at the front and back, has a corridor at the rear eaves, and has a yellow glazed tile hard hilltop. There are also east and west side halls, and there is a well pavilion in the southeast in front. In the 10th year of Guangxu, when Cixi celebrated her 50th birthday, she moved to Kixuo Palace and once received congratulations here. The selection of the concubine of Emperor Guangxu was also held here. Yikun Palace is located to the north of Yangshu Palace, to the south of Kosiu Palace, and to the east of Changchun Palace. Among the east and west 12 palaces, the east is more respected, and the closer to the central axis and the closer to the Qiangqing Palace, the more respected. The word yi means to assist. The empress's bedroom is Cunning Palace, so Yikun means to assist the empress in managing the 6 palaces. Yikun Palace is also known for being the residence of concubine Hua in the popular 2012 palace drama Empresses in the Palace. Dear tourists and friends, now the palace we are looking at is the Taihei Hall. It is located behind the Yikun Palace in the West 6 palaces. Originally, it was the rear hall of the Yikun Palace. During the reign of Emperor Guangxu in the Qing dynasty, this hall was transformed into a hall with doors at both the front and the back, named Taihei Hall. The hall has a yellow glazed tile flush gable roof and is 5 bays wide, with doors at both the front and the back. The 2 eastern rooms are connected. When Empress Dowager Cixi lived in the Kutsuo Palace, she used to have meals here. The middle one serves as a passage for people to come and go. The 2 western rooms are also connected and were used as a tea drinking and resting room after meals. 1 room on each side of the east and west ear rooms of the hall has been opened up as a passage, which can connect the Yikun Palace and the Kuxiu Palace. There are east and west side halls in front of the hall, and there is a well pavilion in the southeast. There is a corridor at the rear eaves, and the east and west sides are connected to the veranda, which turns north and is connected to the east and west side halls of the Kuxiu Palace. This hall is now displayed in its original state of court life. Dear friends, now we see the Kuxiu Palace. It's one of the West 6 palaces where imperial concubines lived in the Ming and Qing dynasties. Built in 1420, it was first Shaoshang Palace and renamed in 1535. It was renovated many times, especially in 1884 for Cixi's 50th birthday. Originally a 2-courtyard house, in the late Qing, the Kuxiu Gate and walls were removed, and the rear hall of Yikun Palace was changed to Tai Hall, connecting the 2 palaces into 4 courtyards. The front corridor of Kuxiu Palace and others form a cloister with the Ode to Longevity on the walls. The Kuxiu Palace has a single-eave roof, 5 bays wide with a front corridor. The eaves have brackets and the beams are painted with elegant patterns. The door and window are exquisitely carved. Inside, there's a throne and a screen with a plaque. The side rooms are separated by carved partitions. The courtyard is spacious with ancient cypress trees and copper ornaments cast for Cixi's birthday. The east and west side halls are Yanghe Hall and Sufu Hall. The rear hall is Lijing Xuan with 5 bays and a single-eave roof. Cixi lived here and gave birth to Emperor Tongzi. She moved back here in 1884 and named it Lijing Xuan. Dear friends, this is Shanfu Palace, one of the inner court's West 6 palaces. It's closed for renovation. Built in 1420, first named Shuan Palace and renamed in 1535, renovated in 1683 and 1897, it's a 2-courtyard palace. The front gate is a glazed one with wooden screen walls. The front hall, with 3 bays and a yellow glazed tile roof, is more formal. It has partition doors and windows. The back hall has a similar layout. There are east and west side halls with ear rooms. The rear courtyard's main hall is Tongdao Hall, 5 bays with ear rooms. It has a unique interior design. There are also side halls and a well pavilion. Xianfu Palace was for imperial concubines. Later, it had various uses. Emperors like Qianlong, Jia and Shanfeng had connections with it. Dear friends, we are now at the Taiji Hall, which is part of the West's Six Palaces and was constructed in 1420. Initially called the Wei Yang Palace, it was renamed Qixiang Palace in 1535 and later became the Taiji Hall in the late Qing dynasty. It has been renovated many times. Originally a two-courtyard structure, when the Chengchun Palace was renovated, the rear hall of the Taiji Hall was converted into a passage hall. With added verandas and connected corridors, it formed a four-courtyard complex with the Chengchun Palace. The Taiji Hall has 5 bays, a yellow-tiled hip and gable roof, and front and back corridors. It features Suzhou-style paintings on the exterior and decorative patterns on the doors and windows. The interior ceiling was modified in the late Qing and early Republican periods. There are carved wooden screens separating the central and side bays, with a throne in the middle. In front, there is a glazed screen door and a courtyard with side halls. The rear hall, the Tiwan Hall, has a yellow-tiled flush gable roof and 5 bays. Its rear verandas served as the stage for the Chengchun Palace. In 1884, for Empress Dowager Cici's 50th birthday, operas were performed here for half a month. In the Ming Dynasty, Emperor Shenzong once resided here after a palace fire. Before Pui left the palace, imperial concubine Yu of Emperor Tongzi lived in the Taiji Hall. The Changchun Palace is located behind it. Dear tourists and friends, now we are in the Imperial Garden. It's on the central axis of the Forbidden City, behind the Palace of Earthly Tranquility. Named Rear Garden of the Palace in the Ming Dynasty and Imperial Garden in the Qing Dynasty, it was built in 1420 and retains its basic layout. The garden is 80 meters long and 140 meters wide, covering 12,000 square meters. The main hall of Imperial Peace, with a double-eaved flat roof, is on the central axis. Around it are pavilions, terraces, and towers among greenery and rocks. It has 3 features. First, the layout is symmetrical but not rigid or scattered. Nearly 20 buildings around the Hall of Imperial Peace, like the Floating Green Pavilion, Clear Jade Pavilion, 10,000 Springs Pavilion, and 1,000 Autumns Pavilion, are exquisite. The latter two, with a round top and square base and porches, reflect round heaven and square earth. Second, strange rocks and lush trees, including over 160 ancient ones, and unique bonsais, like the petrified wood one in front of the Crimson Snow Hall, make the garden charming. Third, the cobblestone paths with over 900 patterns of figures, flowers, etc. are fun to walk on. Originally for emperors and empresses to rest and enjoy, it also had other functions. It's a model of classical imperial court gardens, connected with inner court structures. The symmetrical layout aligns it with palace buildings, balancing neatness and variety. Buildings along walls and pavilions inside create a spacious space. The trees, bonsais, and rocks enrich the scenery. The paths form multi-level landscapes from ground to high air.
好了，那么这就是主题部啊，说各位看看最后一个画面，整个宫酒店由南到北，南门午门，是不是？然后北门、北午门、北午门门前，那么现在这个中国王代教应该注意。
Dear tourists and friends, now we have come to the area of the East Six Palaces in the Forbidden City. This area includes Jingren Palace, Chengqian Palace, Zhonghui Palace, Jingyang Palace, Yanghe Palace, and Yangtze Palace. Dear friends, we're at Zhonghui Palace. Built in 1420 as Xianyang Palace and renamed in 1535, it's one of the East Six Palaces. In the Ming, it housed imperial concubines and was once a crown prince's palace. In the Qing, it was for imperial concubines again. It's about 47 meters long and 47.9 meters wide, nearly square, covering 2,269.5 square meters with 2 courtyards. The south-facing Zhonghui Gate leads to the front hall, 5 bays, and 3 bay side halls. A path in the rear courtyard links front and back. The rear hall has a flush gable roof, ear rooms, and a retaining wall with a well pavilion in the southwest. Its painted patterns are valuable for studying the Ming-Qing painted pattern evolution. Dear friends, now we're at the gate of Jingyang Palace. It's closed for renovation. This palace is quiet and unique in architecture and decoration. It was used for storing books and cultural activities, showing the Forbidden City's role in cultural inheritance. Walking in its courtyard, one can feel a peaceful and detached atmosphere, away from the outside hustle and bustle. Dear friends, we're at Yonghe Palace, one of the East 6 palaces, east of Chengqian Palace and south of Jingyang Palace. Built in 1420 as Yong'an Palace and renamed in 1535, it's been renovated over time. In the Ming and Qing, many imperial concubines lived here. It's a 2-courtyard palace. The south-facing Yonghe Gate leads to the front hall, 5 bays plus 3 verandas, with a yellow-tiled hip and gable roof and painted brackets. The central bay has a door, others have sash windows. Inside is a Qianlong plaque. The east and west side halls, 3 bays each, have yellow-tiled flush gable roofs and painted eaves. Their north sides have 3 ear rooms each. The rear courtyard's main hall, Tongshun Jai, 5 bays yellow-tiled flush gable roof, has characteristic doors and windows and ear rooms. The east and west side halls, 3 bays each, are also painted. There's a well pavilion in the southwest corner, and it retains its original layout from the Ming Dynasty. Dear friends, we're at the gate of Chengqian Palace, one of the East 6 palaces. It's closed for renovation. Built in 1420 as Yong'ing Palace and renamed in 1632, the Qing followed the Ming. Renovated in 1655 and 1832, it's a 2-courtyard palace. The south-facing Chengqian Gate leads to the front hall, 5 bays, yellow-tiled hip and gable roof with fine brackets and painted patterns. The rear hall, 5 bays, yellow-tiled flush gable roof with brackets and painted patterns, has ear rooms. The east and west side halls, 3 bays each, yellow-tiled flush gable roofs with painted patterns, and there's a well pavilion. Its layout has remained since the Ming. In the Ming, it was for imperial noble consorts. In the Qing, many imperial concubines lived here, like Consort Donggo of Emperor Shunzi and Empress Shao Quanqing of Emperor Daoguang. Dear friends, we're at Yangtze Palace, one of the East 6 palaces by East 2nd Long Street. Built in 1420 as Changshu Palace, renamed in 1535 and again in the Qing. Renovated in 1686, in Ming and Qing, imperial concubines like those of Emperor Daoguang lived here. It was like the other 5 palaces with 2 courtyards. The front hall had 5 bays and a yellow-tiled hip and gable roof with Qianlong's inscriptions. There were 3 side halls on each side. The rear hall and its side halls also had 5 and 3 bays respectively, with yellow-tiled flush gable roofs. In 1845, a fire destroyed most of it, leaving only the gate. Rebuilding in 1872 failed. In 1909, a 3-story Western-style water palace was built. It had a pool around it with water from Yukon Mountain. The main building had 9 rooms per floor. There were hexagonal pavilions at the corners. It was said to have copper beams, glass walls with fish, and a glass floor. Empress Dowager Longyu named it Lingzhao Zhuan, or Crystal Palace. In fact, most of it was made of iron, including the columns. It was mostly built with white marble and few bricks, with carved outer walls and tiled inner walls. Due to lack of funds, it wasn't finished by the winter of 1911 and was stopped. In 1910, Empress Dowager Longyu had electric heaters, fans, and lights installed. In 1917, the north part was bombed. In 1931, the Palace Museum turned it into a storeroom for cultural relics. Now we're at the Jingren Palace, one of the East 6 palaces. Built in 1420 as Chang'an Palace and renamed in 1535, the Qing used the old name and renovated it in 1655 and repaired it in 1835 and 1890. It's a 2-courtyard palace. The south-facing Jingren Gate has a stone screen wall from the Yuan dynasty. The main hall has a Qianlong plaque. The ceiling has 2 dragons playing with a pearl pattern and fine painted eaves. The floor is paved with square bricks and there's a platform. The east and west side halls, 3 bays each, have yellow-tiled flush gable roofs and painted eaves with ear rooms. The rear courtyard's main hall has 5 bays. This palace keeps its Ming layout. In the Ming, it was for imperial concubines. In 1654, Emperor Kangxi was born here. In 1703, Emperor Kangxi lived here to mourn his brother. Later, many imperial concubines lived here, like Empress Xiaoshengshen, Imperial Concubine Wan, and Imperial Concubine Zhen. Dear friends, we're at the Forbidden City's Treasures Gallery in the east of the Palace Museum. Opened in 1958, it's in the Hall of Imperial Supremacy, Room 1, Hall of Joyful Longevity, Room 2, and Hall of Harmony and Longevity, Room 3, showing Qing court treasures. Here's the Nine Dragon screen, a single-sided glazed one built against the palace wall in 1772. It's 29.4 meters long, 3.5 meters high, 0.5 meters thick. The upper part has a yellow-tiled hip and gable roof with wooden-like structures. The carved nine dragons are in 5 spaces. The lower part is a white marble pedestal. It, along with those in Datong and Beihai Park, is called the 3 Great Nine Dragon Screens in China. Now we're at the Ningxu Gate, north of the Huangji Gate, the second gate in the Ningxu Palace area of the Treasures Gallery. This was the former site of the No One Hall in the Ming Dynasty and became the Ningxu Palace in 1689. When rebuilt from 1772 to 1776, the gate was remodeled like the Qiangqing Gate but kept its old name. It's a house-like building with a yellow-tiled hip and gable roof, 5 bays wide and 3 bays deep. Its painted patterns have changed a lot. Initially, it had the dragon and phoenix with imperial seal painted patterns. During Empress Dowager Cixi's 60th birthday in the Guangxu period, it was changed to the Sushi painted patterns. In 1979, it was restored to the Qianlong style. Dear friends, the Hall of Imperial Supremacy we see now is the key building in the Palace of Tranquil Longevity area. Built in 1689 under Emperor Kanshi and initially called the Palace of Tranquil Longevity, it was renamed and rebuilt from 1772 to 1776 for Emperor Qianlong's post-abdication court receptions. It's on the front of the central axis there, sharing a single-story stone terrace with the rear palace, facing south with 9 bays wide and 5 bays deep, following the 9-5 system. It's on a white marble Sumeru pedestal with a front moon platform. The Imperial Road links to the corridor leading to the Gate of Tranquil Longevity, surrounded by white marble balustrades and flanked by steps. The sundial and standard measure by its steps show imperial power. It was modeled on the Palace of Heavenly Purity. In 1796, after abdicating, Emperor Qianlong held the banquet for thousands of elderly here, with over 5,000 attendees. It was repaired in 1802 and 1884. In 1894, Empress Dowager Cixi's 60th birthday was celebrated here. In 1904, she received envoys here. After her death, her body was laid here. Sharing the name with the Ming's Hall of Supreme Harmony, Emperor Qianlong's naming shows its high status. Imperial supremacy, from the Book of History, means a monarch should govern fairly. The plaque and couplets in the hall reflect Qianlong's ideas. In 1794, Emperor Qianlong decreed the Palace of Tranquil Longevity as his post-retirement residence, not to be changed like Yonghe Palace. With copies of the decree in the Grand Secretariat and the Imperial Study, it became the least used hall in the Forbidden City due to this rule.
代前后的早景，所有的店都有。这毛笔字写的不咋样，画的它明朝，它的建筑，到清朝这儿也基本上没有，它讲修修不了，没原材料。然后您看这地下这砖，这砖也是金砖啊。看到了。
Dear friends, now we see the Palace of Tranquil Longevity behind the Hall of Imperial Supremacy. Built in 1689, it was the rear hall and renamed after the front hall became the Hall of Imperial Supremacy in 1772-1776. It's on a single-story terrace connected to the front hall with low walls of yellow and green glazed bricks. The palace has 7 bays wide and 3 bays deep, a single-eaved hip and gable roof. The eaves have hollowed-out cloud and dragon ornaments, all gilded, and its interior and exterior are like the Palace of Earthly Tranquility. The east secondary bay has a door with specific window and wall structures. The rear eaves also have doors and walls. The indoor ceiling has patterns. There's a small room with a stove, and the western bays are for sacrifice, while the eastern ones are bedrooms. There are side halls on both sides with chimneys at the back. After reconstruction, it shows Manchu customs. Emperor Qianlong's inscription said he'd move the shrines from the Palace of Earthly Tranquility to here after abdication. Originally with dragon and phoenix painted patterns, Empress Dowager Cixi changed the exterior to Sushi painted patterns. It regained the Qianlong style after the 1979 renovation and is now a cultural relics exhibition room in the Palace Museum. Dear friends, we're at the Hall of Cultivating Character, inside the gate behind the Palace of Tranquil Longevity. It was modeled on the Hall of Mental Cultivation in 1772, a bit smaller, with a special layout. It has a yellow-tiled hip and gable roof, 3 bays wide, divided into 9 by square columns, with 4 front veranda bays. The central and secondary bays have doors, now glass ones, 4 in the central, 2 in others. 4 bays deep, the interior has several small winding rooms. The central bay has front and back doors, a throne in the middle, an octagonal gilded caisson, and gold foil dragon ceiling. Originally with imperial seal-painted patterns as the retired emperor's palace, Empress Dowager Cixi dined here. After the 1891 renovation, except for the ink cloud chamber, the rest changed to sushi-painted patterns. Dear friends, the building in front is the Pavilion of Cheerful Melodies, a Qing Palace theater at the south of the East Road in the rear of the Palace of Tranquil Longevity, facing north. Built from 1772 to 1776, repaired in 1802 and 1891 with wells for stage effects. The Garden of Harmonious Delights Theatre copied it. Behind is the Tower of Reading and Appreciating, north of the theater, for watching operas. Built in 1772, renovated in 1808 and 1874, it has 2 floors, a single eave, a hip and gable roof with yellow tiles and green edges, and imperial seal-painted patterns. With throne beds downstairs and doors leading to corridors. It's for the imperial family to watch operas, and the corridors for nobles to accompany. Dear friends, we are now at the Hall of Joyful Longevity. It is one of the buildings in the middle road of the rear area of the Palace of Tranquil Longevity in the northeast corner of the Forbidden City. To its south is the Hall of Cultivating Character, and to its north is the Hall of Harmony and Longevity. It was completed in 1772 during the reign of Emperor Qianlong, repaired in 1802 during the reign of Emperor Jiaqing, and renovated in 1891 during the reign of Emperor Guangxu. The Hall of Joyful Longevity was modeled after the regulations of the Hall of Pure Elegance in the Garden of Eternal Spring. The stone inscriptions of the Jingshangzhai rubbings are embedded in the walls of the east and west corridors in the north and south courtyards. Emperor Qianlong intended to use it as his sleeping palace after abdication and wrote the couplet, "The books beside me bring joy to the painted scenes," so this hall was also called the Reading Hall of the Palace of Tranquil Longevity. In 1894, Empress Dowager Cixi once lived here and used the West Warm Pavilion as her bedroom. The Hall of Joyful Longevity has 7 bays in width and 3 bays in depth, with surrounding corridors. The total width is 36.15 meters, the total depth is 23.20 meters, and the building area is 839 square meters. It has a single-eaved hip and gable roof covered with yellow glazed tiles. The height from the ground to the main ridge is 18.7 meters. Its column grid structure adopts the method of reducing columns, that is, 4 gold columns in the front eaves of the central bay and the east and west secondary bays were removed. For the needs of decoration and supporting the second floor slab, 6 columns were added 1.82 meters south of the 6 interior gold columns, and 2 columns were added 1.6 meters south of the old eaves columns in the east and west end bays. The appearance of the 8 added columns is the same as that of the structural columns, but there is no load-bearing beam and frame structure above them, and they only extend to the bottom of the ceiling beam. Now, the Hall of Joyful Longevity is an exhibition room for cultural relics in the Palace Museum. We're at the Hall of Harmony and Longevity. It's in the middle of the rear area of the Palace of Tranquil Longevity in the Forbidden City's northeast. South is the Hall of Joyful Longevity, north is the Pavilion of Auspicious Scenery with a corridor between them forming a shape. Built in 1772 and renovated in 1802 and 1891. It has 7 bays wide, 1 bay deep, a single-eaved hip and gable roof with yellow tiles. 5 front and 3 rear bay verandas. Except the front veranda, others have corridors. Front veranda's central and secondary bays are open. The hall's central bay has a 5-panel door. Secondary bays have specific windows. Rear veranda and side halls bays also have particular windows. There's a 3-bay corridor in the central bay, leading north to the pavilion with doors to small courtyards. East and west corridors are enclosed with small doors, and there's a pavilion and corridor outside the west one forming a small courtyard. On the left of the front moon platform is a sundial. The platform links to the corridor and the Hall of Joyful Longevity. There are glazed flower beds on both sides of the corridor, and corridors on both sides of the hall are inlaid with Jingsheng Jai rubbing stone inscriptions. Dear friends, now we see the famous Zhenfei well in the Forbidden City. It was first an ordinary well. Zhenfei, Emperor Guangxu's beloved concubine, was open-minded and supported reform, which angered Empress Dowager Cixi. In 1900, as the Allied forces invaded, Cixi ordered Zhenfei pushed into this well before fleeing. Now the wellhead is small, about 30 centimeters in diameter, rebuilt to prevent accidents. This well witnessed that tragic history and serves as a reminder of the past and the cruelty of imperial court struggles. Dear friends, now we're at the Shenwu Gate, the north gate of the Forbidden City, and our last stop. Built in 1420 as the Xuanwu Gate, it was renamed Shenwu Gate during Emperor Kanxi's reign to avoid his name taboo. The gate is 31 meters high and rectangular. Its base is a white marble Sumaru pedestal with 3 arched openings and a gate tower above. The tower on a white marble base has 5 bays wide and 1 bay deep, with corridors and railings. The central and secondary bays at the front and rear eaves have lattice doors. There are panel doors on the east and west gable walls leading to the city wall and horse ramps. Steps are in front of each side. The tower has a double-eaved hip and gable roof. The lower layer has single upturned eaves and single cantilevered brackets with 5-step dugong, and the upper layer has single upturned eaves and double cantilevered brackets with 7-step dugong, decorated with ink line and large gold dot spiral painted patterns. There's a plaque with Shenwu Gate in blue and gilt bronze characters. The roof is yellow glazed tiles, and the interior has golden lotus and waterweed patterns on the ceiling and golden bricks on the floor. Previously, there were bells and drums managed by the Imperial Guards and timed by the Imperial Observatory, with an official on duty daily. After dusk, the bell was rung 108 times, followed by the drum for the night watch. The bell and drum were struck at each watch and again at dawn, except when the emperor was in the palace. As the back gate, it was an important passage. Empresses of the Ming and Qing dynasties used it for the sericulture ceremony. In the Qing dynasty, imperial concubine candidates entered through this side gate every 3 years. In 1924, the last emperor Pui left through it. Our Forbidden City trip is ending. We've seen many palaces, feeling the royal majesty and culture. Now we leave through the Shenwu Gate. Although the trip is over, its culture remains in our hearts. It's like a historical book, giving us a deep understanding of ancient China. Hope this trip is unforgettable and look forward to your next cultural exploration.